With all these new fractional ownership companies, all these new offerings, with the injection of private equity into the hobby, I've heard you say 150 million is being deployed into the hobby by this group, maybe 50 million there, 20 million there, whatever it is. You know, you alluded to it earlier, but based on what we're seeing at the high end of the hobby, what do you think the impact of those new models are going to be on the hobby long term?
Oh, I think it's going to be great. And by the way, good for Rally for them to buy the card. Long term, that's not a $1 million card. Long term, that's a $5-10 million card. I mean, you're talking about a Pop 2. You're not talking about Jordan Pop 300 that sold for $738. You're talking about a Pop 2. So if they hang on to that card, they're going to make a lot of money with the card. But what do I think about what they're going to be doing? I think they'll be bullying a little bit. I think there's a little bit of manipulation going on. I think there's a little bit of bullying going on because they can. You know, the hearings for Wall Street Bets and GameStop just started this week. Like, they don't even know what the hell they're going to do with Reddit. And what are you going to do with these Wall Street Bet guys with 8.2 million people that are on there saying, let's go get, GameStop and screw these, Melvin Capital or Seth Cohen guys and, the Citron, the hell with them. And then boom, Melvin Capital loses, some say $500 million, some say $3 billion, to the point where Seth Cohen had to come in and him and a couple partners, bailed him out with $2.75 billion. Why? Because the small guys teamed up and said, let's go against the big guys. So, but for the longest time, the big guys could manipulate. The longest time, that's how they make their money. And if those guys are not getting into the card industry, you have to know that they're going to manipulate. For example, if you own 50 of the Jordan PSA 10s, 86 Fleer, and say it's a $200,000 card, why wouldn't I buy that card at an auction at $600,000, $700,000? I don't care if I lost $500,000. Now everybody in the market's writing 50 different articles in a day saying the Jordan's really worth 700, it's going to $1 million. We own 50 of them. Let's lose one at 700,000. So that's $500,000 loss, but we got 49 that we're going to make 500 on. We just made 10 million bucks. So the ability for the math wizards to come in and manipulate is very high. I don't see this industry being regulated anytime soon. I don't see it being regulated, like when I say anytime soon, I mean, I don't see it being regulated, maybe never, maybe not during you and I being alive. So 10, 20, 30 years. So what does that do? It kind of gets the cards away from the emotion goes away. It becomes logical. Now it's more logical. Now it's no longer emotion. Now it's no longer childlike. Now it's more, hey, I'm going to buy and I'm going to make da-da-da-da. It's more the hedge fund mentality, the stock fund mentality, which I'm in that world. I'm a guy that's a Series 766, so I know the wiring of running a business and saying I still got a profit from it. But I think, what else is going to come in when that takes place? Sometimes it takes the fun out of the game because something that is supposed to be only be worth $50K, now it's $300K. It's not a $300,000 card, but they've been able to make it a $300,000 card because they're the market maker, but it's a $50,000 card. So a person that wanted to buy that card for 50, they can't, but they don't want to buy the card because they want to flip it. They want to buy the card because they want to own it and appreciate the card for a few years and tell the story to their kids. So a little bit of that's going to go away. But I also don't see this being, like, oh my gosh, Jordan's card going to go straight to 3 million and 5 million and 10 million. Listen, 86 Fleer, Jordan, Last Dance comes out, 738, and it's a Pop 300. The math just doesn't make any sense for it to be a Pop 300, $738,000 card in today's economy. So somebody's going to play this video and says, you were wrong. Yeah, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I'm saying in today's economy, but never forget the basic rule of Warren Buffett. It's a very basic rule of Warren Buffett. When everyone's greedy, be fearful. When everyone's fearful, be greedy. A lot of the stuff I buy when people are afraid. Like the moment COVID took place, first 30 days of COVID, I bought a few $100,000 worth of cards. I just went out there and I said, hey, cash, man, people are scared right now. I'm not. What do you need? Boom, 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 boom. But today I'm a little. I just bought a nice card. I just bought what did I just buy? Zion Williamson, National Treasure, 3 out of 5. You'd say, $350,000 card I just bought in the last couple weeks. Why? There's only 5 of them. Obviously the big one still hasn't come out. What's going to happen to Zion the next couple of years? It's a risk. That 350 could be $1 million in the next 6, 12, 18 months. Or that 350 could be 200, and I'm going to have to sit on it for the next 5 years, which I'm pretty patient, but I'm good either way. So there are still opportunities out there to, hedge your investments, but it's a different game today. It's a very, very different game today. People have to be a little bit more, not saying the word optimistic, a little bit more calculating and strategic today rather than just winging it today.
Yeah, we've seen the market, just the overall, the indices, if you will, really skyrocket in the last 12 months, let's say. The growth rate has been extraordinary. And I don't believe the growth rate is sustainable. And I don't think anybody thinks the growth rate is sustainable for much longer. But what I want to ask you is, once the growth rate plateaus, once the values plateau, do you think that those new higher values are sustainable, or do you see any sort of retraction? What do you see happening?
So I could be very wrong with this. I could be very, very wrong with this, and I'm okay with that. I've been wrong many times in my life. My goal is to be right 51% of the time. As long as that's the percentage, I'm trying to increase it from 51 and up. Now I can't go to 100%, but I want to be up there in the 70s and 80s. This is my opinion on this. Okay, if you buy a 1951 or 52 Willie Mays, long term, you're going to lose a PSA 8. No. If you buy a Pete Rose card, rookie, PSA 7, PSA 8, you're going to lose long term? No. Is he going to eventually be in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Will it be when he's alive? I don't know. So you have to know, like with investments, as a financial advisor, I would sit with the client, and you would sit down with the client and you typically ask him 3 different questions. So you have a few different questions. So you say, okay, when it comes down to your investments, you have 3 different buckets: short-term, midterm, long-term, right? Okay, what's short-term? Emergency fund, money market, anything that's liquid, 0 to 12 months. Okay, great, cool. So what do you have in your short-term? I advise you to have 6 to 12 months, depending on what your lifestyle is. I like 12 to 24 months, but at least you want to have 6 to 12 months of your expenses saved. So if your expenses are 10 grand a month, I want to see you have $60,000 to $120,000 in cash savings. Okay, we have it. Phenomenal. What's midterm? Midterm is 12 to 10 years. This could be, I'm planning for my daughter's wedding. She's 27, and in our tradition, we have to pay for it. And she's been with this guy for 5 years. He proposed. I think it's coming up. I have to be ready to spend $100,000. Okay, great. You're Armenian. You're whatever you are. Let's write that down. Okay, great. Midterm, we are thinking about buying a bigger house. Okay, great. We midterm, we'd like to get some mutual funds. Okay, great. Then you go long term. What's long term? What do you have in long term? I have 401k. I have a defined benefit. I have pension. I have this. I have social. Okay, long term is what? 10 on, 10, 20, 30, whatever your age is, 40. So you go on. Am I going to lose long term with pre-70s cards? No way. Am I going to lose long term with these new sexy $400,000-$500,000 cards? Absolutely, I could. Absolutely, I could, long term. So for me, I understand us getting excited about some of the players today. I get it. I mean, I bought, $1 million worth of cards for today's players, but I know it's okay. So when you buy a mutual fund, you got 3 different types of mutual funds. You got small cap, mid cap, large cap. Small cap is small companies. Mid cap is large companies. Large cap is larger companies, right? So what's a large cap? Okay. Microsoft, Facebook, Walmart, those are large cap. Okay. If today Amazon's worth, say, $2 trillion, how long is it going to take till they're worth $4 trillion? 1 year? I don't think so. 2 years? 3 years? I don't know. 4 trillion? So if I put 100,000, when is it going to be 200,000? Maybe 7 years, 12% rate of return. Okay, cool. I'm still good with that. But it's not like it's going to double 3, 4, 5 times. Now, if I invest in a small cap company Like for example, Clubhouse, the new app just came out called Clubhouse. Everybody's doing their, podcast there, right? Okay. Clubhouse just raised $100 million, and $100 million they just raised at a valuation of $1 billion. So the company's worth 900. They put $100 million. That's $1 billion company. Clubhouse is blowing up. That's a small cap company. And what if you put $100,000 in there with $1 billion company, and that company's a $50 billion company? Come 5 years from now, your 100,000 is all of a sudden $5 million. That's pretty cool. So all the new stuff I consider small cap. All the, the PSA 8 Jordan, large cap, you're fine. The Wayne Gretzky, whoever that bought those two cards, I knew what I was selling. They're fine. A Bill Russell rookie card, you're fine. Any of that stuff, you're fine. And then, you're kind of playing the risk game. What kind of risk tolerance do you have? If you don't have a lot of risk tolerance, don't play with today's money. If you have risk tolerance, if you are more safe, conservative, go bank on the stuff that is bankable. Some of the stuff today is too risky.
Yeah. Okay. Fair stuff, man. I appreciate it. Okay. I want a couple more questions I want to get in before you have to go. The first one, when we talk about the market, and you just addressed it, but I want to know if you're current on these sort of debates, if you will, between Gary Vee and Vegas Dave. I know you're familiar with these guys. Do you have a take on what their sort of opposing views right now?
What is their opposing views? I'm curious.
Vegas Dave says in 18 to 24 months, the market's going to crash like nothing we've ever seen before. And Gary Vee says we're just at the beginning.
Yeah, okay, so I agree with both of them, but here's what my argument is for both. I do think the market's going to crash, but how long? Is it going to be a permanent one? Absolutely not. Listen, I'm talking to clients about deploy a small percentage of your money into cards. People are like, okay, I'm going to put 1% of my money into Bitcoin. Fine, cool. You got $1 million. You want to put 10 grand in Bitcoin? Go for it. 1 to 5%? Do it. Go for it. Okay, what percentage should I put into precious metals? I think you should consider putting 2 to 5% of your money in precious metals. Gold. Who buys gold? What is gold about? Gold is about Armageddon. Whoever is buying gold is predicting a massive market crash. Let's not confuse the two. So, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You're buying because you're hedging, is why you're buying precious metals, right? So cards, are they going to go the way they've gone the last 12 months? Absolutely not. In a 12-month period? Absolutely not. Zero. So why? What do you mean by this? Okay, so go and think about what dramatically changed in the last 24 months. Dramatically changed in the last 24 months. So if you go back and you think about the first ever national debate on TV by presidents that was on TV that changed the game was between Nixon and Kennedy. Prior to that, it was only radio. Nixon was ridiculous on radio, terrible on TV. The first time they did the debate on TV, he didn't shave. He didn't look good. He didn't get the right amount of sleep. He looked terrible. He was sweating. They didn't do makeup on him. The night before, Kennedy went to a tanning bed. He did his tanning. He did his makeup. He shaved. He got 10 hours of sleep. Camera turns on. Kennedy looks presidential. Nixon doesn't look presidential. The game officially changed on how you pick a president. It was voice before. Now it's voice and face. And you know what it is? You know what's happened in the last 12 years with how you pick presidents? Twitter and social media. Yeah. The Obama era. The Trump era, right? It's a complete different game. Okay. So what's dramatically changed the last 12 to 24 months that caused cards to blow up? Private equity guys got it. And now you can buy shares of cards. You don't buy the whole card. You buy shares of cards. That's a dramatic event that we're talking about. So Gary's right in the fact that something just happened that changed the game. Yes. But Dave is also right, because 48,000 to 738 in 12 months? Absolutely not. That's not sustainable. You think a 738 is going to, okay, 738 on 48 is what? If you think about 738 on 48, is 15 times, yeah. Okay? You know what it is? If we take 738 times 15 times, it's an $11 million card. You think a Jordan Pop 300 card is going to be $11 million card? It's not. Okay, so what happened the last 12 months Never going to happen again. The next time it happens is because another weird event took place that's technologically advanced, and we have to be prepared for that the day it comes.
So what I'm hearing you say is the growth is unsustainable, which the growth rate is unsustainable. I completely agree with that. But are you saying then that you think the Jordan for $738,000 is going to come down in value significantly over the next couple of years?
100%. Yes. Here's why. Okay. So I went to a Rolex store today. I want to buy my wife a Rolex. It's her birthday tomorrow. She's born on Valentine's Day. Okay. And she's 21 weeks pregnant, and it's our fourth one. And it's not like she's in her 20s having a baby or 30s. She's turning 42. Okay. It was a risk when we got pregnant. It was supposed to be twins. We lost one of them, and one of them made it, and we're expecting a baby. So I went, I'm like, let me buy you a watch. I'm not a watch person, babe. Let's look at a watch. Okay, babe, this is the only one I like. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this. Doesn't like jewelry, doesn't like diamonds, doesn't like, it's a blessing, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like, I want to buy you something nice. So I go to the Rolex store. Let me tell you, 4 rows, I can't even show you, like I have 4 rows, okay, like this, where you can have watches in displays. You know how many watches they had? There was at least 200 spots of shown watches that they could put there. You know how many they had? 3 of them. They only had 3 watches to sell. 0 for men. It was 3 watches that they had. It was a Datejust 28 that one was a chocolate face, one was a silver face, and another was another face that they had. I said, what's going on here? She says, well, first of all, Rolex was shut down for 2 months because of COVID. Then you have COVID. Then you have people that are not traveling. They're staying home, which means what? They have more money. So guess what people are doing? What? They're buying a ton of stuff. We have to be real and realize there's a lot of fake money right now. When there's a lot of fake money, there's fake valuations right now. Okay? Billionaires are flocking over to Florida. Every house I make an offer on, somebody comes in. I'm not a billionaire. So if I make an offer on a house for $18.5 million, the next day a guy comes in, hey, cash offer $24 billion. My realtor finally said, you're dealing with billionaires, buddy, and you're not in the billionaire community. So guess what? If you're making these kinds of offers, either make a real offer. This is not the right time to negotiate. It's the worst time to negotiate. So you get when you're looking at, and then like right now, if you want to buy a Daytona Platinum Rolex watch, okay? If you want to buy a Daytona Platinum Rolex watch, by the way, Jeremy, we can go 20 more. If you want to buy a Daytona Platinum Rolex watch, okay? A Daytona Platinum Rolex watch right now, good luck finding one. Good luck finding one. It's $100,000. You can't find one today. Why can't you find one? Because everybody has cash right now. People think last year, oh my gosh, market crash. Market didn't crash last year. Look, I'm not trying to scare people here, but there's very easy indicators to look at to know that the market is crashing. So forget about cards for a second. Set cards aside. Let's not even talk about cards for the next 2 minutes. Let me give you a complete different perspective. The market is in such a big bubble today based on few basic data. Do you realize in the history of America, they say around $6 trillion of money has been printed, of which 20% of it was printed last year. Okay, let me say that one more time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard what I just said.
I heard it.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
So 20% of all the money ever printed in US was last year. And now we're doing 1.9 trillion. Don't worry about it, just go print it. People are not struggling today financially. It's a 7% unemployment. We've had 7% unemployment so many times. Our interest rates is at 0%. Powell said he's going to keep it at 0 till 2023. What does this mean? Do you realize how long interest rates have been below 2%? It's been 2% since Obama took office in 2008. And the only time it went up to 2% was in Trump's second year. After COVID, they brought it back down to 0%. Obama kept it between 0 to 0.5% for 6 years. The last, I'm not trying to be negative here, economic expansion was 128 months before COVID hit. Let me say that one more time. The economy expanded for 128 months. That's 11 years, 2 presidents, 3 terms. That's not, that's just, so you're sitting there and people are saying, wow, but you're just being pessimistic. No, okay. So when are cards going to be fine till? The moment Powell raises interest rates, get ready for shit to hit the fan. So if you're buying and selling, do so till the end of 2022. But you better get ready for 2023 if Powell raises interest rates. Why? Here's how interest rates work. I wish I had a pen here to show you. I kind of need the pen to show you this visual. Let me try to see if I can find this pen. See, this is the challenge that a lot of us are not. Look, when it comes down to marriage, there is, babe, I love you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah. Okay, babe, what's yours? What's mine? What do we get married with? Hey, you have kids. When you have kids, there is challenges. There's fights. That whole makeup for 6 hours wedding, you know, oh my gosh, this greatest man for this. I love you. Okay, bills, taxes, health, your parents, my parents, in-laws, keeping up with fights, our kids' fights, kids' health, kids' issues, someone dies, another funeral, another wedding. That's life. So what am I going to do? But I love her. That's just the beginning. You know, marriage is a lot more complicated than most of us think. And when we get married, we don't know what marriage is all about until you get married. Then you're like, yeah, you know, I wish people would have told me a little bit more about marriage. This is why I say don't get married until the number starts with 3, right? So watch this. Let me show you this and you see where I'm going with this. Interest rates, price, okay? This is an easy principle that I'm going to show you, okay? Here's what's going on today. Today, prices of everything is very high because interest rates are 0. The moment they raise it, everything's going to go down prices. That's a house. Look, basic math. If you get a 500 right now today in America, if you want to buy a house, the interest rate with Chase Bank for 30-year fix is 3%. You know, it's the mortgage payment on a $500,000 loan at 3%. 30-year fix is $2,100. Okay. Do you know what that payment is if interest rates go to 6% on a $500,000 house? $3,000 a month. You know what that payment is if a interest rates goes to 9% on that same $500,000 house? $4,000. When we buy a house, how do we buy a house? Do we buy a house based on interest rate? Do we buy a house based on the value of the house? Or do we buy a house based on what we can afford to pay on a monthly basis? The answer is what? What we can afford to pay on a monthly basis. When some of these events change post-COVID, everyone's going to realize that 12 to 24 months of fake money, the price has to be paid for that. And my prediction is it'll be 2023. So the next 2 years, a lot of people are going to look good. They're going to look like, oh, they know what they're talking about. But a lot of people are going to look like idiots in 2023. So brace for impact.